All right, hello Periscope. Hopefully I'm working now. I don't even know what happened. I have never had that happen before. My phone did not go dead, but all of a sudden in the middle of my Periscope, my phone just shut off and literally would not turn back on. So I don't know exactly what happened. I am so sorry that happened, but thank you for rejoining. Oh, awesome. Thanks for joining again. Welcome back. Yeah, I have no idea. My phone literally started freezing and then just shut off and would not turn back on. But we are back on now. Hopefully we have a decent connection so I won't be freezing or randomly shutting off again. Thank you guys for rejoining. I'm sorry for the glitch. Feel free to continue to give hearts. Feel free to invite your followers to share. Thank you guys so much. Okay, we're unstuck. We're back on. Awesome. Thank you guys for the hearts. Thank you for inviting your followers again. Thank you for sharing. I love you guys. So I don't really know what happened, but we're just going to keep on moving. So we're just going to pray it does not happen again in Jesus' name. Okay, awesome. So today we're talking about breaking the mold as it pertains to getting unstuck. So right before my phone randomly shut off, what I was talking about was how we have to understand that just because something has been done one way for such a long time, or just because, that was how it was taught to us or how it's been done for years, doesn't mean that we should allow this cycle to continue to perpetuate. Doesn't mean that that's necessarily the best way to do something. We have to understand that we have been called to break the mold. So one of the first steps to being able to break the mold is we really have to stop caring what other people think, and not in a way where if your mentor says something to you, your accountability says something to you, we have to be accountable and we have to be submitted, but we have to stop caring so much about what others think and the point that they keep us from breaking the mold or keep us from doing or being who God called us to be and what he called us to do. Last week we talked about when Jesus was in his hometown, when he returned to his hometown and he performed signs, miracles, and wonders, and yet they said, wow, who is this Jesus and what is he doing now? But then they began to remember his past, and then they began to remind him of who he was. Well, wasn't he just Mary's son, the little boy who used to run around here? But what Jesus did is he didn't waste his time any further in his hometown. He said, a prophet never has honor in his hometown. He didn't try to prove himself. He didn't try to beg people to believe him, beg people to believe in what he was doing, but he wiped his feet off and he left and he went on. So we have to stop caring so much what other people think, and we have to stop taking, rejection so personally. Aristotle said this, and I think it's so true. Criticism is something you can easily avoid by saying nothing, doing nothing, and being nothing. So we have to understand that when we decide to break the mold, when we decide to do a new thing, when we decide to be a record breaker, people are always going to have something to say about it. People are always going to have an opinion. People are always going to have something negative, some kind of criticism. You should be doing this different. You could be doing something, better this way, whatever it may be. But when you've been called to do a new thing, when you've been called to be a record breaker, when you've been called to usher something new into the earth, you cannot care what people say, and you cannot take rejection personally. And we have got to stop wasting our time trying to force people and persuading people to see things the way we do, or to understand why God has called us to do what we've done. This whole week when we talked about getting unstuck and how we have to be able and be okay with people, not being okay with what we're doing and not agreeing with what we're doing. One example I've been using a lot is Noah. And when Noah decided that he was going to obey and submit to God and build the ark, I'm sure people looked at him as if he was crazy. I'm sure his family looked at him as if he was crazy. His friends looked at him as if, he was crazy, because the one that God gave the message to build the ark was him. So other people didn't understand. Other people didn't see the rain. Other people couldn't understand why it was that he was doing what he was doing, but he had to get to a point where he didn't care what other people were saying. He didn't care what other people were doing. He didn't care about the criticisms or the unbelief of those around him, but he was willing to break the mold and do something new. And we have got to get to that place. Even Jesus, in all his time he spent on earth, he was often breaking molds and breaking rules and doing things, that were very different. And Luke 13:14-16 says this, and this is one of those times when Jesus was doing a new thing, doing something different than the rules, than past, and then tradition would have him to do. So it says, but the leader in charge of the synagogue, in charge of the synagogue, was indignant that Jesus had healed her on the Sabbath day. He said, there are 6 days of the week for working. Come on those days to be healed, but not on the Sabbath. And then the Lord replied, you hypocrites, each of you work on the Sabbath day, don't you? Untie your ox or your donkey from its stall on the Sabbath and lead it out for water. This dear woman, a daughter of Abraham, has been held in bondage by Satan for 18 years. Isn't it right that she be released even on the Sabbath? So right there, Jesus had healed someone on the Sabbath, which was against tradition, which was against rules, which was the way things were not supposed to be done, which was the way things, weren't always being done. God was breaking the breaking the mold. Jesus was breaking the mold. He was doing something different, doing something that tradition would not have him to do, doing something that the religious leaders of that day did not agree with. But God, Jesus was not afraid in that moment to break the mold and do something different, because that's what God had called him to do, to come in and to break the mold, to do a new thing, to show that there is love, to show that there is grace, to show that we are not saved through legalism and saved through rules. So what we have to understand is, even as Jesus was willing to take the criticism of those around him, was willing to break the laws of the religious leaders at those times, we have to understand that when we break the mold, people who are so bound by tradition, bound by religion, and bound by the way things have always been done may not agree. So we have to be okay with people not agreeing with us. We have to be okay with people not accepting us. We have to be okay with people not applauding us when we have been called to break the mold. So the next thing I want to talk about in regards to breaking the mold is imitation. And I think this is one of the greatest things that holds us back from being able to break the mold, is we are constantly looking for a leader, constantly looking for an example of someone we can imitate. What we have on this earth, what we have in the church, what we even have in the secular arena, what we have is people trying to imitate other people trying to be other people. But this is what we have got to begin to understand about imitation and how imitation works. When you imitate someone, when you try to be exactly as someone else is, you will only get as far as that person you are imitating. You will never do anything other than what they have done. And the only way that you will even be able to get to where they have gotten is if you imitate perfectly everything that they have done, which is just about impossible to do because you aren't them and you weren't called to be them. So we have to understand that one of the greatest things that is actually holding us back from being solutions and from breaking the mold is our desire to imitate other people. We look at other people who have been doing, things for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, and we're like, wow, they've experienced a great measure of success, a great measure of platform. So let me just go ahead and imitate them and do exactly what they are doing so that I can become who they are, so I can walk in the success they are walking in, have the followers that they have the platform that they have. But what we have to begin to understand is that imitation will keep us bound, because we will only get as far as they have gotten. And our goal should always be to break the mold and to get further than they have gotten. As a father and as a mother, you always should desire for your child to have more, to be more, and to go farther than you did. Even if you have spiritual parents or mentors, the goal should always be for you to accomplish more than they have, to go farther than you have. That there should be this idea of advancement, as generations progress, people getting farther. But if we give in to, this temptation to imitate, what will happen is that we will never be able to grow or advance farther than the person who did it before us, because we're simply trying to imitate them. I think there's so much imitation going on, so much mimicking going on, so much recycling going on. And I think the reason is because people don't know who they were truly called to be or what they were called to do. And when you don't know who you are, and when you don't know what you were called to do, then you will just say, okay, well, that person looks cool. That person looks like they're doing it well. So let me mimic them. Let me imitate them. But what we have to understand is, if we want to break the mold, if we want to be a pioneer, if we want to do a new thing, we cannot give in to the easy ways of mimicking. We have to be willing to take the path less traveled. We have to be willing to do a new thing. We have to be willing to charter uncharted territories, because mimicking will only get you as far as the person you're mimicking. And that's only if you're able to do everything they are doing absolutely perfect, which, as you're not called to be them, you're probably going to stumble and fall at trying to be them, because you simply were not created to be them. Another way that we need to begin to break the mold, and this is going to sound really simple, but it's so important, is through prayer. You know, when God came to Solomon and asked him what he wanted, Solomon prayed, Lord, make me wise. God, give me wisdom. God, give me knowledge. And what happened as a result of Solomon asking for wisdom and knowledge is he became a solution. He became a person of great wisdom and a person of great knowledge, a person that other people around the world would travel to and pay great amounts of money to hear his wisdom and to hear his knowledge and to hear his solutions. So we have to understand that breaking the mold, if we want to break the mold, we cannot be dumb and we cannot be ignorant and we cannot be prayerless. If we want to have the wisdom of God, the revelation of God, if we want to be a solution, we must spend time in prayer. We must ask God for his wisdom and for his knowledge, because it's God's wisdom and God's knowledge that is going to make us a solution. If we want to do something new, we must speak to the Creator, who is able to speak new things into us, who is able to teach us how to create, who is able to give us good ideas, who is able to make us wise, who is able to make us, knowledgeable. What happened is when Solomon increased in wisdom and increased in knowledge, he became a solution. So if you want to be a solution to where people are traveling to hear you, people are traveling to, to get to the solution you have, you must pray and we must ask God for his revelation, ask God for his wisdom, ask God for his knowledge. We have to understand that if we want to break the mold, we even have to be willing to face great failure. And I think this is so important. We have to be willing as people to break the mold, to look failure straight in the face and keep moving. We cannot allow temporary failures to hold us back. We have to understand that breaking the mold means taking the path less traveled, which means, going to uncharted territories and understanding that we're going to go through unexpected struggles. When we're breaking the mold, we have to be willing to face, struggles. We have to be willing to face trials. We have to be willing to face things that are hard and not easy. One of the biggest things, as I said earlier, that keeps us from being able to do a new thing and to break the mold is we're so in love with the idea of being comfortable. We're so in love with the idea of being complacent. We're so in love with what is familiar to us that we never leave those old familiar ways to go to something new. That's exactly why the Israelites were were never left, they were stuck in the wilderness for so long, because they kept their eyes backwards on Egypt and thought about all the good things of Egypt, even though they were bound by slavery, whipped and killed, treated so poorly. But because it was easy and familiar, even in the wilderness, after God had set them free, they still desired to be bound by, the Egyptians. They still looked backwards. So we have to understand is if we're willing to break the mold, we have to not only be willing to be uncomfortable, but we have to be willing to face great failures. So one thing I've been doing all week that I want to continue to do is I want to give you guys real life examples of people who failed, of people who faced great trial, of people who faced great struggle, but have become people that we look to and look forward to today. People we look up to, and you would never imagine the struggles that they faced before they became someone of great success. So what I want to do at the end of this broadcast is I want to go ahead and share with you guys some of the greatest people, that have walked the earth, who have accomplished much, who have accomplished great success, and the struggles and the trials they went through, so that when you begin to decide to break the mold and do a new thing, and you encounter struggle and you encounter trials, you won't be, first off, you won't be scared, and then you won't be unexpected, because you will expect these things, understanding that people who have experienced great success also experience great failure and great struggle. So what I want to do now is I want to go ahead and ask you guys some questions to see. I know we know what these people are famous for, but do you know the struggle and the trial that they went through? Oftentimes we set our eyes on people who have experienced great measures of success, and we say, wow, I want to be like them. I want to do that. I want to have great success. I want to have a great platform. I want to have a successful business. I want to be a successful actor. I want to be a successful scientist. I want to be a successful preacher, whatever it may be. But we don't count the cost or even understand the cost of what it cost them and what it took for them to get where they are, what they had to overcome to get to where they are. So now what I want to go ahead and do is share some examples. So do you guys know who was fired by a newspaper editor because he lacked no imagination and had no good ideas? Walt Disney. So before Walt Disney became the Walt Disney that we know today, Disney that is known for its creativity, known for its imagination, and known for its good ideas, he was first fired by a newspaper editor because he lacked imagination and had no good ideas. And this is one of the most imaginative and creative places on earth, Walt Disney. But at one point he was fired for the very thing he was called to do. And that's something we have to realize, is that the devil will often attack you in the area that you are most called to do, the area that you are most called to change, in the part of you that is your purpose and destiny. He will try to force you to believe a lie about it. So what if when Walt Disney got fired and they told him he had no imagination, had no good ideas, that he believed that and didn't move forward and go forward with his dreams? Another one. So who started a business? I'm sure you guys have never heard of this computer business called Trafodata, and it failed. Has anyone ever heard of that business called Trafodata? Probably not, because that was Bill Gates' first attempt at a computer business that did not succeed. But now we know Bill Gates as the creator of Microsoft and as someone who did great things, specifically in the computer world. But his very first business, called Trafodata, that many of us have probably never heard of, actually failed. The next one. Who had 7 failed store businesses? A person named Macy, who is now the creator of Macy's, which is a huge chain of stores, and is one that has set even the precedence for how department stores, they created and pioneered the way for department stores. But before Macy created Macy's, which is what we know it to be today, he had 7 failed attempts at trying to create a store prior to that. So do we know who didn't talk till he was 4 and didn't walk till he was 7? That's extremely concerning. If somebody had a child that did not walk until they were 4, a lot of children start walking at the age of 1, sometimes the age of 2, sometimes even as early as 9 months. But this person didn't start walking until they were 4, and didn't start talking until he was 4, and didn't even walk until he was 7. That was somebody answered it, Albert Einstein. So one of the people that we consider to be a genius today, to be someone of great, capabilities, to be a person of great knowledge, great wisdom, somebody who pioneered the way in science, one of the greatest geniuses to ever walk this earth. What if he would have looked back and been like, people probably thought he was so stupid. He didn't talk till he was 4 and walk till he was 7. But now we know him as a creative genius. So the next one. Who as a child was told that he was too stupid to learn anything, was fired from his first 2 jobs for not being productive enough, and failed 1,000 times at one of his inventions? Does anybody know? Thomas Edison. So Thomas Edison as a child was told he was too stupid to learn anything, was fired from his first 2 jobs, and failed his first 1,000 tries at creating the light bulb. But what if, when he was told he was too stupid to learn anything as a child, he would have given up? What if after he was fired from his first 2 jobs for not being productive enough, he would have given up? What if the first 998 times he tried to make the light bulb, he gave up after those, but he didn't? And so what happened is, after he, experienced great failure, he was able to become a great success. And, he wasn't only known for what he created via the light bulb, but he was an inventor who created hundreds of inventions, but he was told as a child he was too stupid to learn anything. Okay, so I think this is a person that a lot of people really, really respect. So, and I know I shared this, I think, last week, but for all of those who are listening for the first time, do you guys know who was fired from her first job as a television reporter because she was told she was unfit for TV? Does anybody know? Oprah. So Oprah, one of the people that we really watch, one of the people there we go, some people got it. One of the people, who we all look up to, one of the women who truly pioneered the way specifically for women in television, was fired from her first reporter job because she was told she was unfit for TV. So, the very thing that she was called to pioneer, the very thing she was called to do, the very thing that she was called to break the mold for, she was told that she was unfit for that exact thing. So what we have to understand after reading all of these examples is that when you're called to break the mold, you're going to face great failure, you're going to face great trial, you're going to face great struggle, you're going to face, great things that you're going to have to overcome, you're going to face great road bumps, great hurdles, and oftentimes the very thing that you're called to do is the thing that people will tell you not to do, is the very thing that you will struggle with the most. But we have to be okay with that when it comes to breaking the mold. So I think that a lot of us are stuck right now, and feeling like we're not experiencing forward movement, that we're we're unable to move forward because we are unwilling to break the mold. So what I want to do today is just encourage you guys, don't be afraid to do a new thing. Don't be afraid to break the mold. Don't be so obsessed with being comfortable. Don't be so in love with the familiar, and don't be so obsessed, with being complacent that you are unwilling to let go of what is familiar to move forward to break the mold. Because I truly believe that, it's not a mistake that we were born at this time. It's not a mistake that we're walking the earth at this time, because I truly believe that we were called to break the mold and called to be solutions for such a time as this. So I just want to encourage you guys this morning. Just because it's how it's always been done doesn't mean that's how it should continue to be done. And don't sell out for a cheapened, watered down version of who you were called to be just to mimic someone, just to try to follow and do exactly as they're doing. We need to stop recycling. We need to stop mimicking. We need to stop copying. We need to stop imitating. And we need to be willing to do a new thing and to break the mold. So, it's my prayer this morning that as you guys listen to this, that you will be okay with breaking the mold, even if it means leaving a place of familiarity, even if it means, having to face great trial and great struggle, whatever it means. I hope that you guys understand this morning that yes, breaking the mold comes with leaving comfortable places, comes with doing the unfamiliar, and comes with great trials, but it's so worth it. If you want to be and walk in the fullness of who you were called to be and the solution that we need you to be at such a time as this, we have to be willing to break the mold. So I hope you guys are encouraged. If you're feeling stuck, maybe ask yourself, am I trying to imitate someone? Am I trying to mimic someone? Or am I being true to myself? So, if you guys some people I know are asking a lot of questions as I'm talking. So, if you have questions that you want me to answer and I was unable to get to during the broadcast, people are often sending me emails at monica@wisdomisthenewblack.com, and I will respond on there. If you guys are looking for a way to begin to break out of the negativity in your life and you really want to become a positive person who walks in wisdom, I have a free 5-day negativity detox that you can sign up for at my website, wisdomisthenewblack.com. I'm on Facebook and Instagram as Wisdom is the New Black, so feel free to join the community of people who are striving to walk in wholeness and striving to live, in kingdom ways and to become everything God has called us to be so that we can be solutions that this generation and nation and world needs. So I love you guys. Thank you so much for joining this morning's Sunrise Scope. I'm sorry that we had some issues that my phone randomly shut off, so there's 2 parts, but if you tuned into the first one and the second one, thank you so much. I hope you guys, during these Sunrise Scopes, it's my desire to, make sure that we start our day off right by thinking right thoughts. So I love you guys. I hope you're encouraged on this Wednesday, and thank you so much for joining, and I will see you guys tomorrow on tomorrow's Sunrise Scope. Have an awesome, awesome day.